Hi there, I'm Sarah Zarella, a portrait and wedding photographer and your host for Wedding Secrets Unveiled. This is a podcast where we cut through the complexity of wedding planning, leaving you with everything you need to know direct from the industry experts. If you want to simplify your wedding planning, while having fun, of course, you came to the right place. Join me while I guide you through your planning, starting from your engagement to your big day where you say, I do. After photographing for the past 18 years, I am sharing with you tips and tricks to cut through the excess noise because I believe from the moment you said yes, your planning experience should be a magical time in your life. Here you'll find episodes that are fun, stress-free, and straight to the point, with a fresh, honest take about the reality of what you really need to know about planning your perfect day. Let's dive in. Well, welcome back, podcast friends. So I have Judi here today. Hello, Judi.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Well, thanks for talking with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm very excited because this entire realm that we're about to talk about today, I have no clue about. So I am going to be like such a interested listener over here because as I'm interviewing you, I'm going to be learning so much because I'm excited to share with our listeners what you do. So with that said, can you tell our listeners who you are, who you serve, and what you do in your business?
Yes, of course. So I have a floral preservation business named Bloomsake, and basically what we do is we turn your flowers into a forever keepsake. We mainly work with brides, but of course we work with everyone. We have different options that you can choose from. Anywhere from a tray, a floral block, wine stoppers, coasters, all the fun stuff. And we basically just preserve your flowers and turn them into those little fun keepsakes.
So how did this even start? When did you even decide to get into this?
So I've always been in the wedding industry. I used to manage a bridal salon and sell wedding dresses. So whenever I would chat with my brides who were trying on wedding dresses and their moms, we would always go back to the not really an issue, but the point that flowers were so expensive and you spend so much money on them and you only are able to enjoy them the day of. You can't really keep the flowers forever. And so, of course, I wanted to find a way to kind of help my brides with this problem. I even reached out to a few florists to see if, anybody kind of like did this preservation thing, which was not really that common back when I first started doing it. And I've always been super creative myself. And, I went to fashion school. And so I took like a bunch of different art classes. And I actually worked with resin while I was in school. So as I was researching and kind of like playing around, I realized that you can make resin jewelry with flowers. And so light bulb kind of like ticked for me. And I was thinking if you can put flowers inside jewelry, then you should be able to do it with, larger products. And so I started messing around and then I ended up getting really good at it. I started preserving my friends' flowers. And from then on, everybody just started becoming in love with all the pieces and word of mouth kind of just spread. And this was beginning of COVID. So I decided to quit my full-time job and focus mainly on flower preservation. And here we are today.
I love it. And for our listeners, if you hop on Judi's website, you can see all the visuals of what she's talking about. I'm even looking at it right now, and I'm just loving the wine stoppers. I mean, what better favors or like gifts? Because I'm thinking like, yes, obviously you talk about that you work with couples and brides, but like yes. Even something for not even for a wedding, like or just like a favor or just something custom made. It's something really sweet. I just love it. There's paperweights, there's coasters. all sorts of fun products that we're going to talk about in this podcast, obviously.
Yeah, I was gonna say the smaller pieces are definitely perfect for bridesmaids gifts, groomsmen's gift, just something for your special loved ones to have from the day of your wedding.
So take me through this now. As I said in the beginning, this is all new to me because obviously you found like a niche market, right? So
Yeah.
we have someone getting married, right? And we have this beautiful bouquet, and it's the next day, and we're looking at this bouquet. What do we do with this? Where do we go from here?
So we have two options. We are located in Houston, Texas. So if you are local to the Houston area, then we have drop-offs available. But if you are not, then we actually send you a detailed packing instructions email to teach you how to pack your flowers so it can arrive to our studio safely.
Perfect. So you basically can service anyone, no matter where they're at.
Yep, that's correct.
All right.
Yep, we work with everybody.
And is there like a certain time frame of when really you need to get your flowers to you? And the reason why I'm thinking about this is like I'm sure there's a lot of people who are listening right now that haven't even been married. So maybe there's like this, window of opportunity. And then there's might be some people maybe who've already been married. But I'm just saying, where's the sweet spot when we're dealing with fresh flowers?
Yeah, so with fresh flowers, the sooner the better. I always recommend everybody to send their flowers in the Monday right after their wedding, just because on the weekends, the postal services are closed. So it's just going to be sitting in a box, getting all wilted. We have, let's say your wedding has passed and it's been a couple of years and you have your flowers just sitting there drying. We can also actually work with those flowers. As long as your flowers are dry, then we can work with that. We actually have worked with flowers over 16 years old. I had a mom who reached out to me about her daughter's flowers. Her daughter was getting married, and so we preserved her daughter's fresh flowers. And she mentioned that she had her wedding flowers from 16 years ago. And so we were able to not only preserve her flowers, but her daughter's flowers, but also her flowers. So that was really cool to kind of have like both of them. And we mixed them in together. So she was able to kind of have a little piece of her wedding and her daughter's wedding all in one piece.
Oh, so that's really interesting. So then you can basically take someone else's flowers who've already been married years ago, and as long as it's dried, right, you can work with those.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so there's not like a time frame other than obviously, like you said, if it's the fresh flowers that like immediately before you leave for your honeymoon or something like that.
Correct. Exactly. I always say, you're thinking about a million things during your wedding, and after your wedding, you should just be able to focus and celebrate your, new marriage. Always assign that task to somebody else, like your maid of honor, so that you don't have to stress about it.
Can you tell me a little bit about different types of products that you do, like that you make with the flowers, and then what is kind of your popular options that you have?
Yeah, so we make anywhere from the serving trays to coasters, wine stoppers, ring holders. I would say our most popular product is going to be our gold handle serving tray. It's a 12 by 12 square tray with these beautiful gold handles. They just look so luxurious, and it's just a beautiful piece to have displayed in your living room, so that you can be able to enjoy your wedding flowers every day.
Why do you think the gold handle tray has become your most popular item that you sell?
I think that just the look of it is like I said, it looks very luxurious, and it is something that is a little bit more functional than just putting it on your wall. You can display it, on a table, in your living room, in your dining room, wherever, and it just has that, added luxurious look to it.
What about custom pieces. Have you ever had those requests? And what do you do with that?
Yeah, so everything is actually a custom piece, just because everybody has a different style of flowers. But I actually had somebody reach out to me who wanted to preserve a bagel. I think that was the most custom and fun piece that I've ever worked with. Her husband used to own a bagel shop, and it unfortunately closed down during COVID. However, they had a bunch of frozen bagels left over, and for his 50th birthday, she wanted to surprise him with a bagel block. So I think that was the most custom and fun piece that I've ever worked with.
So I'm only
I
laughing because,
know.
like, for the people who are listening, obviously we don't have any cameras or anything. My face is just like I'm just my eyes popped out of my head because I asked you this because I'm thinking like, oh, custom pieces, like somebody might want to take their flowers and make like a different type of piece with it than you have on your website. But never did I ever think that you're going to hit me up
Expected.
with
Yeah.
like a bagel. So, so basically, though. It's funny, like, as you say that, it's like the sky's the limit here. I mean,
Yeah, it
it
really
sounds like
is.
to me that you're open to preserving, if they could think it, you might be able to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, hey, if we can do it, then I would love to do it. I feel like that's the fun part of my job is being able to see the different, pieces and things that we can make out of resin.
Now, at the time when you opened the business, you said that you were one of, were you, no one was doing this. Were you one of the only ones doing it? And what has happened with your industry that you're seeing now?
Yeah, so at the time, I started playing around with resin, preserving flowers in resin, maybe end of 2018. You know, I didn't make it into a business until 2020 and really like fully focus on it. But at the time when I started, I would say, I think I was one of like the only one doing it. And I didn't really see this type of preservation style around. And as time went on, TikTok and Reels definitely played a huge role in expanding kind of the art of this type of preservation. And you just see people try to do this more and more.
But what do you think sets you apart from them?
Yeah, so I think what sets me apart is definitely my years of experience. I know a lot of people, are big DIYers and want to try to DIY their piece and work with resin, but with resin, it is, you have to be really just you have to have enough experience because when you don't do it correctly, it can actually become a little bit dangerous and become a hazard. If you mix too much, then it starts heating up and kind of like starts creating this like chemical smell. There's a lot of little factors that go into it. So I definitely think my experience and years of doing it sets me apart from everybody else.
What is somebody who's listening to this? What are they looking at in price points? Take us through a little bit of the process and a little bit about the cost of preserving their bouquet.
Yeah, so with resin preservation, resin is not really a cheap material. And it also is it takes a long time to finish up a piece because our process when preserving flowers is that once we take your flowers, we have to make sure that the flowers are fully dry before casting them in resin. Resin and water or anything wet, it doesn't mix well together. So that's where drying the flowers come in. And so that is one step of the process, which takes a few weeks and up to a month, depending on what type of flowers we have. And then with the resin casting process, that takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, depending on, the piece. So, it is very time consuming. So that's what reflects in our pricing, and also the material. So with our pricing, our trays, they go anywhere from 550 to 780, and then our smaller pieces go anywhere from $50 to $100. It really depends on which piece you pick, but they are all made with so much love. They're handmade by us. We don't use any type of machines, and so I think that really just reflects off of our pieces, and that is why we are priced the way that we are.
I love it. And you're making something very special for them.
Exactly, and something that is very, I think, sentimental, that can be passed down to just generations.
All right, Judi, so we're going to take a quick break. And then when we get back, let's go over with our listeners a little bit about the actual technical end of your process in regards to like what people should expect, what's different flowers, what colors they turn into. And maybe you can kind of go over with us a little bit about what flowers work best.
Sounds good.
I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you like what you're hearing, I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. And don't forget, you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And I would so appreciate if you left a fabulous review on Apple Podcast. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support. And now, let's get back to the episode. Well, welcome back, podcast friends. So before the break, we were diving in with Judi about flower preservation. However, I think it's time to get into the technical end. So Judi, hit me up and tell me and the listeners, what flowers do you feel preserve better?
So one thing about flower preservation is that, as I mentioned earlier, is that we have to make sure that the flowers are dry before casting them into resin. The thing about drying flowers is that a lot of flowers change colors whenever you dry them, which is really cool. For example, red roses, they dry out as burgundy roses. They turn into this like dark, beautiful burgundy color. Same with white roses, they actually dry into a more cream color. So just keep that in mind whenever you are if you're wanting to preserve your flowers. Some flowers might not turn out to be exactly the way that your fresh flowers look. But at the end of the day, they're still the same flowers, and we still preserve those flowers that you have from your wedding.
Interesting. So why, just out of curiosity, why is peonies your favorite flower? Because I find that that's actually a favorite flower requested in general. So what about the preservation of it makes it also one of your favorite flowers?
I think that just the flower itself, personally, it's one of my favorite flowers. But I think the way that they turn out when they are dried and the way that they look inside a preservation piece just really, I always say the peonies are always the star of the show. They just stand out so beautifully, especially with darker colors or pink peonies. They just look so beautiful whenever we cast them in resin.
Is there a particular flower that you can't work with, just out of curiosity?
So far, I haven't, there's not one flower that is just like an absolute no. It's more of the delicate flowers, such as like chrysanthemums or, sometimes daisies, because their petals are so little, they're really hard to dry. Whenever we dry them, the petals will just start falling. Sometimes we'll glue them back on again, depending on how many petals there are. But I would say it's more challenging to work with flowers that have little petals and a lot of petals like that.
Well, Judi, before we get into the wrap-up question, I just kind of want to learn a little bit more about you and how your life has full circled into doing such a unique product that I've learned so much about. And so for all of our listeners, now they know what to do with their flowers that they're spending all this money on, right?
Yeah.
But you said earlier that you were in the wedding industry. So are you seeing anything to do with the wedding dress industry, like maybe the preservation of the wedding industry for their dresses going into now to the floral end? Or is there any connection that you're seeing that's happened for you with the two?
I think the connection I would say is more of the styles. I feel like people nowadays, so last year I felt like I was seeing more classic styles, which ties into, the wedding dresses that a lot of brides will choose. And now I feel like I'm seeing more colorful flowers. A lot of brides are wanting to do more of that kind of like wildflower look, um, more whimsical. And so I think that kind of just like ties into like more of like the style that they pick. And then with the wedding dress styles, they'll kind of like tie in their flowers and like their overall wedding to it. I think that's where it kind of just like falls in place together.
Again, I have another random question as you're talking. I just totally thought about this. But what about when people send you their flowers, right? Because everything's custom,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people haven't gone through this, so this is their first time doing this. Do they get to see like a proof or anything? Like how do they visually? Because you talked about wedding dresses being unique and flowers are unique. Do they get to see what their product might be before they invest, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we actually have that option for some pieces. Some of the smaller pieces, it's a little hard for us to show a proof because with the molds that we use, it's just it's the way that we make it is like more upside down versus just how they're supposed to be. And so with those pieces, it's a little hard to show a proof. But we do have the option for our customers to ask for a proof if they're wanting one. A lot of customers that we work with, they trust us with the design. They do their research before they work with us, and they see what styles that we have done in the past, and so they kind of just use that as our overall style. And they know that that's what it's gonna kind of like turn out to be. So they do have an option to see a proof if they want, but most of our clients just let us do our thing.
I was going to say, and also too, I think part of the beauty is to see what you make with their flowers. I mean, it's the same thing with a bouquet, right? I mean, I'm sure they send
Exactly.
all the inspiration to their florist, but ultimately, the day of your wedding is the day that your bouquet is presented to you. And I mean, you have all
Exactly.
these great visuals on your website, so people can kind of see what you have created.
Yes, exactly. And it's, also we always tell our customers that we can't guarantee the use of every single flower just because, um some flowers will ship beautifully, but some flowers don't make it through the shipping process, and also the drying process is another thing to kind of like look out for. Some flowers they dry beautifully, but then some flowers they just don't. And so we tend to pick the best looking ones to make their pieces with.
Well, Judi, it's time for a wrap up question. What are some key points that couples should be asking if they are thinking about preserving their flowers to ensure that they are working with a professional company and that they get the results that they are looking for?
So the first key point I would say is to do your research. Look at the company's social media pages, look at their website, look at their previous work, and see if that's something that aligns with your style. And look at how many pieces they've made prior to you working with them, so that you can really see how many years they've been in business and their experience. The second one I would say is to take a look and see if the company that you want to work with has a reservation option. A lot of floral preservation companies require a reservation weeks or months in advance. They only take a certain spot. And so that is something to really pay attention to. With us, we actually don't have that requirement. We work with anybody at all times. Like I said earlier, even if your wedding has passed for a few years, we are still open to working with you. I myself am a huge procrastinator, so I totally get wanting to do things last minute. I also get that when you're planning your wedding, you have a million things you're thinking about, and preserving your flowers might not be on top of the list, and that's totally okay. We work, actually, I would say like maybe 80% of our customers are all brides who are last minute frantically calling us, hey, I didn't realize that, this was a thing, or I didn't even think about preserving my flowers until after my wedding. Can you still work with me? And so, we love working with our last minute brides. So we're here to help. And then lastly, I would say, think about, the timeline and see if, this company's timeline is something that you are able to work with. Because I know a lot of times brides will purchase these smaller pieces and give them as gifts or favors to their bridal party and their loved ones. So if you're wanting that piece sooner for them, then that's definitely something to consider.
I love it. Well, you just helped all of our listeners become one step closer to a stress-free wedding planning journey. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, so we are on all major social platforms. You can find us with our username, Bloomsake, Bloomsake, or you can find us on our website at www.bloomsake.com.
And then for our listeners, Judi, I'll have all of your information on our episode show notes and where they can find you and all the information from today's show. I'll even put some samples of your work right there for everybody, which you all, yes, exactly. And then you all can find it on our website podcast page, which is at sarahzarella.com/podcast. So thank you, Judi.
Thank you, Sarah. It was so fun to chat with you today.
Much love. Thank you. Have a great day. And for our listeners, I hope you enjoyed our podcast. Thank you for listening to Wedding Secrets Unveiled. I appreciate you being here. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I want to tell you something. I encourage you to check out our website at sarahzarella.com. We love photographing while having fun, of course. Check out our podcast page on our website for our show notes along with upcoming episodes with your local wedding experts. Listen in as we help you plan your epic event. And don't forget that you can actually subscribe to this podcast wherever you are listening so you never miss an episode. I would so appreciate if you left a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Even better, share it with a friend. It's a great way to show your support and let us know what you think. If you know any wedding experts that would like to be a guest, we have a link directly on our website where they can let us know. Thank you for listening.